Welcome to the Burn Boot Camp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Kline, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devan Kline.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Boot Camp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
All right, hey everybody, and welcome to the Burn Boot Camp podcast. This is episode number 411. Woo woo! An HQ crew episode. As always, we're bringing you the peeps that run the organization behind the scenes. We're going to talk about the Olympics. It's Olympic season. We're going to talk about sports performance and the science behind nutrition for athletes. All right, we got some athletes in the building today from the HQ crew, and I'm just fired up. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a really substance-filled episode. We hope that you guys are liking the new version of the Burn Boot Camp podcast here. It's episode 411. If you've listened to like any more than a couple, and now we're on 411, and you haven't given us a review on Apple, that's our favorite place for reviews, please go do that. If you love us, any part of us at all, or Burn has helped you at all, your review is our oxygen. So please go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Morgan, how you feeling today?
What's up, everybody? Morgan Kline, co-host and CEO of Burn Boot Camp, and I'm just broing out today, guys.
You are broing out.
I am surrounded by the bros, the Burn Bros, and I'm just excited to talk about all the things sports and athletics and performance. I feel a little out of it right now, so I'm excited.
You're an athlete. As Bryce would say, you're a lower half athlete.
Hey, I didn't say that.
I think you said that.
Who, I said that? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Shift the blame.
Yes.
Yeah, you could have played soccer in college. I'll just give that to you right off the rip, but you chose the business route and to stay focused. I don't think you're that
True.
in love with it.
We're
I
glad
wasn't.
she chose the business route.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty glad you did too.
Yeah. And hey, everybody, I'm Bryce Morrow, Vice President of HQ Gyms. I'm happy to be here talking about stuff I actually know about, right? I don't know much, but when it comes to the stuff we're going to talk about today, I'm going to add some value to
This
this
is your
thing. So I'm
pocket.
excited. I'm also excited to learn that we're still saying peeps. That was pretty cool how you teed it up like that.
Is that outdating?
I don't know. Is
peeps?
it back now?
I don't know. I think everything comes back eventually. The pendulum shall swing left. It shall swing right. Well, I mean,
Okay.
Peeps?
bell bottoms came back.
Yeah, let's
True.
make it a thing. Let's make it a
true.
thing. Peeps. Over to the other peep on the show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Dylan Love. I am a franchise business coach here at HQ, and excited to be here. Fun fact, this was my first actual job out of college, and so I've been here for over 8 years now. Started as an intern my senior summer after I was done swimming. So I was a collegiate swimmer for a long time, 18 years at LSU and Mizzou, and Bryce-
Strictly Tiger mascots.
Bryce always says, I'm just a big Tiger guy.
Yeah.
Big Tiger guy. So put in my time, retired with grace, making it to NCAAs and scoring some points for the team. But really excited to be here. Yeah, employee number 9. I think we had 46 locations open at that point. And yeah, it's been cool to not just see myself grow, personally and professionally, but to see these two wonderful people on either end of us, the bread to our sandwich.
The peeps sandwich.
To see them grow, because they didn't have kids when I started with Burn,
Yeah.
which
No.
is just wild to think. And now they've got 3 little ones.
And now
running
you've
around.
got one.
And I've got one. He'll be he's 1, which is
Yeah.
just crazy.
Just zooming
Crazy to
around.
think. Yeah.
Shout out Lil
Crazy.
Davis.
Lil Davis Love.
Lil Davis
for
Love.
you.
What
I
a
I
remember,
love a Burn baby.
I remember when D-Love, you first came as an intern, right? And you were downstairs, and you were an athlete, right? And once an athlete, always an athlete. So obviously post swimming training had like this being on the mic had this certain pull for you. And I can remember that like fork in the road that you were at, like, business operations or fitness training. Not to say that you can't be both, but at some point in your career you have to kind of choose. And I've not that you were a bad trainer or anything. I thought you were a damn good trainer, but you have just grown so fast and accelerated your knowledge. And I just see people coming to you in the office, having being here for so long, just as that body of information and historic knowledge and experience that you can really share with everyone. So we're excited to have you here, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. As always, we got the burn world, everybody. We're jumping right in. We have what's going on right now. Okay. We there's a big thing that just happened, right? What just happened, Morgan? I think people,
if you guys are following us
awake.
on social media, you probably saw all
your
of
eyes are
our
open.
summits. So we just wrapped up our summit here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's in a different place every year. This is an annual event that we have for our system. So we invite all of our franchise partners and their teams, so trainers, operations managers, Child Watch, really whoever they want to bring to continue the education. And so it's a great event where we roll out new products, we learn, we have breakout sessions. We had a motivational speaker this time. And then we always end it with a great celebration called our Vibos. And so this is where we celebrate some of our top achievers in the system. And then not to mention, we have an amazing pop-up shop where we're all rocking the burn gear. So it's a fun event. And we've brought it to members as well. So we'll have more information on that to come.
Next week in the burn world, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to share with you some of those top achievers at the very important Burn Overachiever Awards, or the VIBO Awards that we have. We're going to share with you some of those top achievers so that you can celebrate success alongside with us. So look out for that. Make sure that you have your subscription to the podcast so that you get the notifications for all episodes. But Summit was amazing. We loved it so much. If you're not a part of Burn Bootcamp on the inside as a part of our team or a franchise partner, there's always that opportunity. We're always looking to add more crazy raving fan Burn Bootcamp, Bleed Blue crazy members that just want to take it to the next level and come be on one of the teams. So
You know what's always special about Summit?
what's
It's
special?
the one word I would say to describe it is it's electric. And it's funny whenever we have vendors setting up sound or AV, and they do it for many companies, right? And they just say, "Hey, nobody does it like you guys."
That's
And
true.
I always hear we hear it every year, but it never
Yeah.
gets old hearing that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we
Have
have
fun.
about 1,000 people
Yeah.
coming around.
Record
It's gonna be
number.
awesome.
And so
Woo!
All right,
1,000.
what else?
Wow, that's crazy. Do you remember the one in Wilmington, North Carolina?
Our first,
the
yeah.
very first one.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, Devin and Morgan, you know what? Maybe just wait a few years before you have a summit. And we were like, no,
Yeah.
we are going to do this now, and we are not going to negotiate with this. We need to pull everybody together every year, and we did. And we had zero music
Yeah.
during our award show, which was awkward. And we also had like the little technological prowess we did have. All fail safes did fail.
Yeah.
I remember,
Was that-
I remember that one because I didn't get invited to that one.
Oh,
That was my-
were you the
I
intern
was like-
still?
I was
Still
2
carrying
weeks,
that.
2 weeks on the job, and then I didn't get an invite.
Was this a decision at Vibos you guys were planning, and it was like, "Hey, do you guys think music would be a good idea?" And Devin was like, No, I don't think so. I have a vision.
Oh.
It does not include music. Let's go get it, team."
It was either that or I cut it from the budget.
Okay.
You know, that's probably what happened because
Now I
that's
got the pyrotechnics. Yeah.
now we've got pyro. Yeah, we've got all the DJs there. We've got it's amazing.
I
It's
didn't-
electric.
I didn't know if
So-
it was Devin was like, "Hey, if you're on a mic, you should be able to command the room,
Probably.
right?" And when you I didn't know.
Probably. I don't remember our decision making process back then.
I think what really actually happened, not without trying to like over dramatize this, is that we were going so fast and we had no experience. So we were going fast with no experience, like driving for the first time with a blindfold on. So like we didn't even know what a run a show was for an award show, let alone like being able to like dial in the music and the cues and all that. So if you would have said, Devin, what's the run a show for the Vibo Awards? I'd be like, we're not working out right now. We are doing the show. We're not running anything. So
Yeah.
Can you checklist this?
can we
Yeah.
checklist this? Yeah, that was our process, the trainer checklist. So Summit was amazing. Electric, Bryce, is a great word to describe it. And that is the center. That is like where everybody comes together to transfer the energy that they acquire and accumulate throughout the year through overcoming challenges and getting closer to their desires. And Jen Love is no different from Woodbridge, VA. I mean, before joining Burn Bootcamp, Jen Love, she tried to work out at like everywhere possible. Have you ever heard somebody say like, I've tried everything. I've tried all the strategies. Jen was one of those people that tried all the strategies, but like never committed to anything, was always struggling to be consistent because of this kind of hopping from one thing to another nature. But after having kids, she saw her body change in ways that she never ever thought her body could change. And, going from being exhausted and tired all the time, like because of that struggle, she didn't even have energy to think, let alone working out. So working out was like the last thing on her mind. Once she realized that postpartum depression was the thing affecting her thinking, she knew that now she had knowledge, so she had a little bit of control, and she could step up and make the changes in the sense of direction in her life to be a better role model for her 2 girls. And isn't that what always drives us, you guys? Like some form of love in our lives, whether it's our children. And if you have children, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't have children, then it might be your spouse or your partner, significant other. If you don't have that, it might be your brother, your sister, your mom, or your dad, or your grandparents. But we will do things for other people that we will not do for ourselves. So she decided, hey, for these 2 girls, I'm doing this because this is bigger than me now. These excuses, this spiral of depressive tendencies I'm going into, this is not acceptable. And I'm going to do it for these girls. So she found Burn through a friend. A friend recognized her. This is how important it is out there, people, to recognize a friend going through it and invite them to Burn. So somebody recognized this, and Jen brought her through the doors. Even though her motivation was super low, she found a way to get there. She had the courage to walk through the doors, and her goal was to just do one thing. And I think most of us should have as a goal is to just not give up. Just start and don't quit. Because if you don't quit, that's the only strategy that you need. And eventually, like Jen now, she loves her trainers, the smiles that she gets from the Burn ambassadors when she shows up and sees them every day. And it's just whole perspective change. I think this Jen's story is just when you are inside of maybe, I would say, an anxious state or some type of negative state, what happens is you tell yourself this story. There's a story, there's a story behind the state that you're in, and the state will always be a reflection of the story. So get yourself in a new environment, get yourself working out, get yourself in start to tell yourself a new story. You'll experience a new state of being. And Burn has given Jen an opportunity to do that, to be in a new environment. But she is the one who recognized that self-awareness around that the self-esteem was going the opposite way, that had been lacking in her life. And she made a decision. She did something to get that self-esteem, got herself in a new environment. Now she's met lifelong friends there, and her daughters just light up when she walks through the doors. And now they're the ones they're taking her to Burn now. Like, Mom, we going to Burn or what? Because this is what we do. And usually we're going at 9:30. It's 9:36. What's going on today, right? So now she's got 2 little girls that she's been empowering that are now empowered and keeping her accountable. So that's what it's all about, people. And I hope that you guys kind of parallel your story as I tell you Jen's, because Burn is with her forever because of what it's done to her life. And I know that's why so many of you out there love Burn so deeply, not because of the workout, but because of the environment that gave you a story that changed your state. And now you're living in an empowering, positive state of mind, not a disempowering, negative one. Morgan, what does this mean to you here, this story? I mean, obviously, you probably closely relate to it here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think all of us really sitting here have heard stories like this, and it's super powerful to know the impact that just the environment can have on somebody's mental state. And then it's like, okay, I do one thing, and then that leads to another thing, and that leads to another thing. And before you know it, your life is completely different than it was. I've certainly gone through my fair share of, looking at your body and not recognizing it, whether that was, through my first child, second child, or third child. I am thankful that I had Burn before I had kids. And so I kind of already had that positive environment to come back to. But I absolutely understand the trap that postpartum can put us in, whether you have depression or anxiety, it's out of your control, and it's a very helpless feeling. From what I've heard with people that have experienced it. And so I think, Devan, you said it really, really well, of just like, hey, when you see somebody in need, you got to pull them, because we all are like pushing or pulling away from something. And it sounds like for Jen, she's pulled towards this because of her 2 kids. But not everybody does have that pull, and they need that external person to say, hey, I'm going to pick you up and let's go and let's do this. So if you are listening and you have a friend that's going through this, don't stop, don't just ask them once, like really be consistent, because it just takes that one time for them to step through the door and feel a life change.
It's really connecting the dots. I'm sure if you've been in Burn Boot Camp, you hear, invite your friends.
Yeah.
Right. Here's why.
Yeah.
We've seen these stories. They'll never get old. One we had on the podcast was somebody moved that's where their neighbor went, right? It was probably a casual, not even an intentional, hey, I'm pulling you towards this thing. It was just, hey, this is where I go. You want to come?
Yep.
And it turns into stories like this where you don't ever know, you just don't know at the time what it's going to end up meaning to somebody, but we've seen it over and over and over. And that's our mission, right? Is to go spread this as far as we can and across the whole world. And I don't think we're going to stop there. So what do you think's to be going on in 2050? We're multi-planet, right? I mean, so it's just invite your friends, if that's what they call friends on Mars. I don't know. We'll have to work through that. But the other thing that jumped out at me too was just what you touched on, is just stringing some wins together. I know for me, I go through a cycle of this every year where you make one decision to up your game, and just whether it's, hey, I gotta eat better. I have to eat breakfast. I have to stop doing this thing. And you just take one step. And although it's a long journey to see the results that you want, you can see little wins every single day, right? You're not going to see yourself hit the goal immediately. But if I make a plan to eat better, within one day, I can actually notice a win. Like, ooh, I had more energy today. Or maybe it's just being more hydrated. And when you feel that win, you can turn that into some momentum, and it's motivation to, ooh, I'm going to keep this going. What else can I stack onto this? And it just started with that first step. And if you're paying attention to that little positive feedback in the short term, you can find it, and then you string those things together. And it is a long journey, but if you string them together, you'll get there. And that's what jumped out at me here.
Yeah.
Anything jump out at you, D-Love?
Yeah, no, I all I can say is that Woodbridge location's fire. I've been there, I've experienced it.
Yeah.
They've got a great team there, great leaders. So she's in a really good spot, a really supportive community, and she's doing all the right things. And again, this is just one story of many, that are the exact same, right?
Clearly a good child watch team too. If the
Great
kids
child
are
watch.
saying, hey, let's go.
Great child
Love
watch
it.
team. Yeah, great team.
And like we always do on the Burn Bootcamp podcast, we are going to leave you with some thought-provoking questions that are going to help you guide your life. So my question for you all is, what is your push motivation? Like, what experience in your past is so emotionally embossed for you that you refuse to ever experience that again? What are you running from? Think about that. And also, what are you running toward? What is the pull motivation? In this case, Jen was running toward being a role model for her children and running away from depression, running away from lack of self-esteem, running away from the opposite, that her daughters looked at her as someone who is not a role model. So push and pull motivation is so important. What is yours? Because when times get tough, we really have to have solidarity in what it is that we want the most out of life. So think about that. As we go on to member Q&A number 1, this is going to be a fun one. Okay, all right. We got Justin from Sharon, M.A. All right, Justin says, there was a talk a little while back that Burn was going to come out with a training shoe. Is this still happening?
What do you guys
do they
think?
know you? Do they know?
I saw the sketch.
Okay, so this started because I, during the pandemic, was trying to find ways to stay creative and productive, and started drawing with my son Maxwell. And I drew this wolf, and I was like, oh, this is a pretty good wolf. I've never really been a drawer before, but I was like, a good wolf. I was like, hey, anybody would look at that and say that's a good wolf. And then I went further and further and further, and before you know it, 5 days later, I'm up at midnight with a Jordan sitting on the box, and I'm looking at the Jordan, and I'm like drawing it out, and then it starts like. And then I posted, and people were like, when's the Burn shoe coming? So the whole train got started during the pandemic when I posted that very first sketch of mine. And I wanted to do it so bad, you guys. Like, I thrive off creativity, okay? And Morgan knows this about me. But we have a lot of things going on at Burn Bootcamp, right, Morg?
That's right.
A lot of things. And Morgan's job is to integrate. Do you want to explain what that means, Morg?
Yes. So,
Put your mic a little closer if you don't mind.
all right. So Devan has moved into the visionary role, which I think that's pretty self-explanatory of what a visionary is. It's someone who looks at the vision and is creative and has innovative ideas. And then you have an integrator, that someone's going to take those ideas and then make sure that they're implemented properly within the organization. So that's the role that I play. I listen once or twice a month to Devan's ideas, and then I decide
That's
which
all
ones,
she can take.
which ones we're gonna just put on like a list off to the side, which ones we're gonna actually implement, or which ones maybe get ripped up and thrown away. So It is my job to protect everybody's time and focus at headquarters. And if you are doing too much, then you can get distracted and then you can, obviously fail at things that are needle moving for the organization. And so innovation is in our blood for sure because Devan is a true visionary. However, it's important to pace that. And that's what we're going to do with the shoe. So he did allow me to rip up the contract to the shoes that we had. I don't think he liked it very much, but we have learned to trust one another. And I said, listen, we just cannot do this right now. It's too much. We're not flying here and here and here and developing shoes and ordering shoes. And so we've just put it on pause.
What did this rip up look like? Was it just
it
one
was
right down the
actually a
middle,
rip-up.
or was it
Rip-up.
multi-seam shredder type deal? Did you see it?
It wasn't shredded. It was ripped up. I saw
Okay.
it ripped up. It was not actually executed. So it wasn't like, we executed on something, but it was about to be executed. And I was like, no, we can't do it. Please listen to me. And he's like, okay.
So you're aware of the physical chain of
It
custody of like it
physically
was
got ripped up.
unexecuted. It made it to you. You saw it make it into the
Yeah.
trash can. Okay,
Yep.
that's good. It's good to know.
Yep.
Well, one little detail that I think is important is you're the integrator, which means you get the tiebreaker. And the tiebreaker is an actual terminology that says if there is a tie, you break it. So you won. I
Yeah.
didn't agree with you, but you won. And it was my first.
It was a historical
It
moment
was
for
my
our
first big
relationship.
boy. It was my first big boy. Like do what she says
Go
and go
pout.
pout in the corner afterwards.
Well,
Yeah.
if I had to make a prediction, Justin, I don't think Morgan will ever stop prioritizing what makes the most sense. And so she won't give in there until it makes sense. And then I also have never seen Devan not actually follow through on his dream. So I have a feeling that if it came down to it, he would be in his own house sewing orders individually by hand. Like I just walk in there one day, like, hey, what's up, guys? What are you doing? He's just got a sewing machine, just kind of like
just sweating.
yeah, just
like,
sweat. We might be able
with
to
thimbles.
fulfill 10 a year.
I got thimbles on.
Well, listen,
But
I did make a proposal, Bryce. I said, listen, instead of the effort to create it from scratch, why don't we redirect that effort to get the attention of Nike or
Whoa,
Noble?
whoa, whoa,
This is
or-
why.
Whoa. Hold on. You're taking credit for that. I said I came into this knowing that you were going to say no, and I had a backup
okay.
plan so that I could, because you never,
okay.
it's never no, it's never I'm always going to leave one like just little outlet that I can just keep working on. And I said, but what I will rip this up right now for sure is Nike women partnership still on the table? And you were like, sure, bring me a Nike women contract.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why
Whoever-
you.
That's
That's why you
exactly
do
what
what
Whoever
you do.
gets
That
the
is
credit for
exactly
it.
how
What
it
we're not
happened.
doing is building it by scratch because we are not shoe developers and we're not in the shoe business, but we can sell great shoes to our members and we can make it custom for our floating floor and we can do all those things, but with a company that knows their SHIT.
All right, D-Love. So if we were to design a shoe and you were to say, give me the ideal shoe for a burn boot camp workout, give me your take on what that might be.
Well, I mean, I'm conflicted because what might actually be practical might not be my style.
Styles.
True.
I'm a style guy.
Way more important.
I'm a style guy. It doesn't always have to be functional as long as it looks good.
Look good,
right?
play good.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, have you guys ever put on Golden Gooses? I mean, those things
Yeah.
are the most uncomfortable shoes in the world.
Very
Yeah.
true.
But
Yeah.
they're stylish, right?
yeah.
You know, some say if that's your jam. So
Yeah.
as long as
If
they're
you
low
like shoes
tops,
that look like they went through the blender and like
Right.
drove through
Yeah.
the mud and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So as
Makes
long
no logical sense to
I've-
purchase them, but we all do. Yeah.
I've just been putting style before function so long, my feet have no feeling anymore.
true.
So I
That's
don't
true.
actually know the difference.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
with my swimming background, I just have baby feet.
Gotcha.
So, everything's a little bit softer. So, but no, as long as they're low tops, I'm good. I mean, I can figure it out from there, but low tops
Yeah.
preferred.
I think really what I hear in Burn Nation all the time is versatile. So that right now you have to look at what's the protocol today, right? If you have something that could span, you didn't look, you just showed up. I do that sometimes. I'm like, hey, I don't want to talk myself out of it. I'm just going to show up. If it's upper body day, great. If it's athletic conditioning, great. Whatever shoes I have on, if those are good for whatever I'm showing up to, that'd be fantastic. You writing that down? I didn't see a note.
I'm writing it down.
Okay.
I just
I'm writing
think
it
that
down
I think
in
though
my head. in my mind.
every foot is different. So I don't know if we're setting the right expectation that we could create one shoe that could, serve everybody that hits the floating floor because I love Nike Metcons. That's literally all I wear. Strength, cardio, it's all I wear.
Yeah.
But like I've recommended that to a ton of people and some people are like, no, I had to take it back. My foot didn't like it. So again, that's why I think shoes are challenging, because there's just different foots.
What if we
Feets.
waited until
Foots.
there was nanotechnology in thread that would manipulate, like a foam mattress does now manipulate to your body's contortion? What if we designed shoes that not only look good, but they had the same contortion qualities as a mattress, and then that actually fit every foot? That could put Burn Boot Camp on the map intergalactically.
I think Dr. Scholes has done that.
Well,
Have they?
I'm just going to say, let's leave that up to the shoe designers,
All right.
and then we will
Okay.
have a very strong partnership with one of them.
All right. We'll do
Okay.
that. So, Justin, the answer to your question is still loading, I think, is
Yeah.
still loading.
We'll
Give us some
say that.
time. We'll update you en route. We have an article that I thought was a great health and fitness headline, especially as we're talking about the Olympics getting started. This is a huge time in our world where we come together and we watch the best athletes, from swimming to basketball to all the things. They come together and obviously go America, go USA. But Olympics are starting. So let's just talk about maybe some sports performance training, or how Olympians might train versus how we might train at Burn Boot Camp. I thought that might be an interesting conversation to have. And you know what? Let's go to the real athletes in the building. We'll go to easy, Bryce. Okay, easy. We'll go to
assumed
Dylan
you were
first.
talking to me.
We'll go to Dylan first. We'll go to Bryce second, and Morgan.
Well, I
since
think we
you're a
want to
lo-
recap the article, right?
Well, yeah, we're gonna recap the article. So yeah, Bryce, you want to do that? Recap the article, and then we'll start with Dylan's take.
Yeah, so we just have a quick article here from Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance, and it's really a pretty quick summary. And they define training versus fitness as training is you're working towards a specific goal, right? So the activity that you're doing in your training is reverse engineering. Here's what you're going to need to do in your sport. So here's the program that we're going to do to set you up to do this more efficiently. From a fitness standpoint, it just says, hey, this is a program that is helping people be more healthy, more functional, just for what may come up throughout their life, right? So it's kind of targeting multiple activities and whatever's important in their life. So it's just ranging from specific for this thing that you're actually looking to grow in and perform in to, hey, I want to feel good, I want to look good, I want to be sharp, whatever your goals are, but it can set you up to be more successful in a wide ranging, level of activities throughout your life.
Yeah. And I mean, I would go ahead and say that the, sport performance is something that, three of us up here have been in, right? And so, it's really cool to see the effort and the work that you put in have an end result. And obviously I can speak to swimming. Sport performance was not just being in a pool swimming laps, going up and down, but you're running, you're lifting weights. A lot of what we do at Burn is the cross training that goes into a lot of the sport performance, but you're just adding on that sport specific exercise, right? So for swimming, it would be 5-6 days a week of in the water, hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours a session. And then, you have 3 sessions of weightlifting, right? And so you're trying to get strong because, strength for sprinters versus distance swimmers are going to be, is going to be a little bit different. So, sprinters are going to be in the weight room 3 or 4 days a week, where your sprinters are going to be in 1 to 2. And so it's very not just sport specific, but distance specific. And it's really cool to see it all kind of come together where, you've got these athletes that are really, taking 3-4 years of their time to then have it really come down to, for these sprinters, it's less than 30 seconds that they're in the water. And so, the sport specific and sport performance side, again, you got specialists, right? You're getting really specialized in your diet, your nutrition, your weight room routines. Obviously you have your swim coaches that are there, to push and develop you, as you're going through your training cycles. But yeah, it's crazy to see that, all of this hard work that these men and women are going through comes down to, you look at track as kind of the same way, right?
Yeah.
It's like, these 100-meter sprinters, it's 12 seconds, 10 seconds, 9 seconds that they're actually racing after 4 years of work. And again, you've got to be specialized, right? You've got to be, super specific in your work to be able to then translate that over to, to the sport that you're in. Baseball is going to be a little bit different because you've got a season that you're training for, it's just really cool to see, it all come to fruition for these, athletes. They put in a lot of work.
I wish I would have known you in that era. Now I know you just crush a couple golf course hot dogs and go bomb a 300-yard drive and beat me by 15 strokes. I'd love to see the regimented, just, I'm doing this for my 12 seconds in the pool, and
dude, I tell you what, it's nerve wracking, right? But you also think about like the time and effort. You're like, hey, you got confidence, right? I put in the work. I did the reps. I did the miles. I mean, I would really say that, obviously from the exercise perspective, is one thing, right? Again, you're specialized in those, but that diet and nutrition, plays such a huge role for these athletes.
Yeah. I mean, in my experience, I think what you touched on was just how specific are we getting, right? Because I would come home for an off season, or even really during the season too. The San Diego Padres, when I played baseball, they would have a workout for us, but really where you were making the strides and getting better, stronger, faster, whatever you're working on doing is in the off season when you're not playing, right? You have a little bit more capacity to, break your muscles down, build them back up, because you're also not mixing in the stress of the season. And it would be get home, you would work with somebody who would say, okay, how'd the season go? How'd you do? What went well? How'd you feel? They'd put you through physical screenings to say, hey, here's where your flexibility's at. They would take into account the position, not even just the sport that you play, but the position that you play as a pitcher. It's somewhat, I mean, DK, would you say that's probably one of the most specialized positions, just because it's like one joint?
Yeah, like a quick example
joints,
is like
really.
we never bench pressed.
Yeah.
That was not a part, like that's just one example of how specialization, periodization, all that hyper specific stuff, it's like you just never bench press because that has nothing to do with throwing a ball fast.
And it would be, so I'm sure there's a lot of specialized, I'm sure there's people listening like, hey, this took a lot of specialization, but what I mean is the shoulder, the elbow gets a lot of special attention of what kind of stress can we put this into? Does doing this thing actually help you do your sport better? And bench press was one of those things that for a long time, it's, hey, the risk reward of doing this versus what you're going to get out of it doesn't make sense. So then they would actually put a program together that said, okay, you're looking to throw the ball harder. You're also looking to feel better throughout the whole season. And now I'm going to choose exercises throughout the entire 6 months off season that fit these goals, your position and what your physical makeup is, even going down to, are you pretty tight? Like, can you touch your toes, or are you hypermobile? What's your range of motion in your shoulder? And do we need to work on flexibility? Are you pretty good? We don't have to work on flexibility that much.
Well, and you look at the physique of the athletes too, right? You look at a swimmer, right? They have the classic V, right? They're big on their chest and lats, and their waistline is super trim because they focus a lot on building up those lat muscles, because that's every stroke in swimming. You have to have, that capacity and strength in those muscles to be good and to be fast. So I think about, track athletes and cyclists, right? All of them have massive quads, right? And calves, because that's what they need to be strong in to be good at their sport, right?
Yeah. Would you like me
I was just curious, when Devan says that you were a lower half athlete, did you specialize with a trainer that was like, hey, we're only doing legs, Morgan. I do not want to see you curl, shoulder press, or anything like that. We're only doing legs. And you were just the best lower half athlete.
I think I'm a lower half athlete, meaning what he means by that, if you're listening, is I'm not a good shooter in basketball, because
you're not bad.
I'm not bad.
You're just really good at kicking a soccer ball. So in contrast,
I think
fast.
Ultimately, if I were to nail it down to one thing, I'm just short. I'm 5'2". And no, listen, like I got my dad's
I know slow,
stature.
short people.
Yeah, no, but I got my dad's stature, and he was also short, and he had very muscular legs, and he was fast. So I think that's what I got from him. And so I was really good at track. And then obviously I chose soccer over track. So it was conflicting seasons. I was a good defender in basketball. I was good at I was good at
boxing people out.
I was good at, I was good
Yeah.
at volleyball for a little bit, but then I gave that up to play more soccer. So I think just because I am short and I would just use what I had to my advantage, which was my speed and my aggressiveness.
So I would like to just take a moment to put in reference like where burn is versus what we're talking about. So we're, these swimmers, even basketball players, even archery, there is a period and a specialization that is involved with something that's so sports specific. And so let's take the range. Okay. So if I'm going to do this. I'm going to draw in the air. If you can see, I'll try to use my words well so that you can visualize this if you're not watching. But I'm drawing a scale, okay? And on one side of the scale is over here. And this might be a program like something like Les Mills or Zumba or something that is group instructor led, highly not personalized, highly not specialized, and no periods. It's a workout that's programmed in a silo, and then people show up and they do the workout, and there's no push, it's great for certain purposes, but that's what it is. It is that side, it's that spectrum. That's like the Les Mills type class-based stuff you might see at a box gym. Okay, so then the other side is what Dylan and Bryce are talking about. This is one-on-one sports performance specific, hyper specific training that requires you to have that specialized attention. You don't do that in a group. You don't do that in a class. It's one-on-one. You're working with your trainer for your sport, working to get better at your times or your outcome. Okay, so then in the middle, okay, let's go in the middle now. All right, so if Les Mills is on this side, then about the next one over is something like an Orange Theory Fitness or an F45 where there's screens and you have people in the building, but the screens are your modality. So you're starting to get more specialized. There is somebody there that could help you out should they choose to in that day. And then, okay, let's go right in the middle on the spectrum. That's CrossFit. To me, CrossFit's right in the middle. There's a workout of the day. You're trying to get better at the workouts that you've done. You're repeating workouts. You're trying to get better at them. So there's some period to that. There's some specialization to that. You're starting to get in this world of, all right, I have a goal. And now my goal is to get better at said workout. Now, what do I need to do? How do I deconstruct my activity in order to do that? Okay, so then let's go on the other side toward sports performance and specificity. This is where burn sits. Now, burn requires our trainers to be NCCA accredited. So we are CPTs. Most of our trainers are in like a NASM or an ACE or 4 years exercise science, plus a Burn University certification. So there's high level of credentials that you need to get on the mic at Burn Bootcamp. And the reason is because it's personal training in a group setting. And if we aren't having a individualized look and focus and attention at every member, then we're moving backward on the spectrum. So focus meetings allow us to sit down one-on-one, get those goals that are hyper specific to you, and then we can execute against those in a group setting. Now, the goal with Burn is to not just be on like the closest to a hyper personalization. It's to keep getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. We're never going to get there. We're never going to get there because we just interviewed Connor Fields, who is the first USA gold medalist in BMX ever. He was right here in the studio. This episode's coming out soon. For his entire life, the only thing that he focused on, Dylan is probably used to this, the only thing he's focused on is how fast can I push the pedal one time? Because that pedal off the rip, if you've seen BMX, it's 3, 2, 1, go, and they go downhill, and every one of them has that stomp of the pedal. All he's doing for a decade is just trying to stomp the pedal harder, right? So that is, and then he'll have a period of 6 months, like Bryce was talking about in the off season, where he's working toward measuring that pedal stomp and then increasing more energy with each pedal stomp. And that is so highly specialized. We're never going to get there because we don't serve that hyper market. We're going to get to the lifestyle athlete who can get as specialized and specific as possible. And then we're going to take you through group periodization. Okay, group periodization. And so we had to invent some of these things because they hadn't always lived there. So that's my spectrum of like, everyday activity versus sports hyper specific performance. And, as pitchers, like we were talking about, I did a lot of internal, external band work with my elbow to increase the integrity of my muscles around the ligaments, like the ulnar collateral ligament or UCL. A lot of pitchers will tear that. We call it Tommy John. We really try to strengthen and lengthen our forearm muscles and our tricep muscles and our bicep muscles around the UCL so that there's less stress on the tendon and more of the attention is absorbed into the muscle. So, I mean, that's just quickly my take on what we're dealing with here. And so, I guess the punchline and the practicality of all this to land the plane from my perspective is Burn Nation. Like, get in focus meetings, because this is the vehicle in which you set that goal. And then you and your trainer, you're on the same page. And the more the more clear you are about the target you're trying to hit, the higher probability you're going to actually hit the target.
Can I just ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the group that is so hyper specialized that needs what we're talking about as far as fitness training, that's a small percentage, correct? I mean, do you feel like that? What percent of the world do you feel like needs that type of specialization that Dylan talked about, that I talked about, that you and I went through that very unique part of our life where we literally were focusing on throwing a ball as hard as we can and knowing where it's going, and that's it? What percent of America is that their need?
I would say a very small percentage,
100%.
but that doesn't eliminate, in my opinion, to answer your question, just because you're not in a sport as a professional athlete does not eliminate the goal orientation towards something hyper specific.
Yeah.
So people want to run better times all the time. We want to do better strength and conditioning assessment. We want to have over a Flex Your Fitness challenge. We want to get X amount percentage stronger, right? So we can have these goals. I think the only difference is we're not isolating it into necessarily like a singular movement. Like the hyper personalization, hyper specificity is, I think, the hyper is a very important word, because pressing a pedal or pulling water, or if it comes to your Gumby arms, like Bryce has the most flexible person I've ever met. I watched this guy throw a ball 97 miles an hour and it looked like his arm was just like
Can you touch your toes?
bent in
Bryce?
half.
Yes.
Yeah, he's very flexible. And so
It did bend in half. That's
so the answer is
one too many times.
the small percentage of people, but I encourage everyone to get more specific with the goals that they're trying to set via focus meetings. Let your trainer know, let your best friend know, have some accountability around it. And hey, like the more acutely we can identify our goals, the more likely we are to hit them.
That's what
I think-
that's what I relate to now, and that's why I asked that question: is life after going through those programs? I want to hit a golf ball far. I want to feel good when I'm down and straight.
Straight.
Well, I want to feel good
With
when I'm
no
done
anger
with it. Yeah.
afterwards.
Yes.
So we
That-
gotta- we
that's
gotta-
a completely different
We
discipline.
got to pull this into emotions.
I don't
okay?
know if the trainers are going to get me where I need. Well, maybe. But I also want to be able to walk around Washington, D.C. for 8 straight hours with my family and not have my back feel bad. And I want to think clearly, right? And so it's gone from very hyper specific, do one thing, to being still specific. Here's the things that I want out of this. But it's a different program, right?
Goals,
and I'm,
goals change.
man, if I just go to
Train
camp
for
and I do
life.
focus meetings, I can do all those things.
What's our goals right
do-
now, Morgan?
Well, I can
Go-
I
yeah, you can
say
do your
one
thing.
thing
Do your
about just I want to also like bring this back to the everyday listener or the everyday, user of fitness that aren't in a sport or haven't been in a sport. I think we can take a lot of inspiration from it. So Dylan touched on it a little bit, and I know we're going to talk about nutrition later in this segment as it relates to sports nutrition versus just any regular nutrition. But I remember interviewing Kathleen Baker, who was an Olympian, and she didn't talk about just the training of it. Granted, that is very grueling. She talked about the nutrition about it, the flexibility you needed to have, the rest that you needed to have. And then they even had therapists like that they would go see regularly. So if you think about it that way, it's taking care of your entire mind and body and not just the specific fitness component of it. And we need to take inspiration from that just for us too, because you can't just work out and think you're going to be successful or hit your goals. You can't just sleep good. You can't just be flexible. It's a combination of everything and getting better at everything. So for me, it's just, just because we're not in that 1% that needs the fitness specific exercises or workouts, We can still train, like we've all just said, for your life, for getting a better time in a marathon, for being active with your kids, for carrying every single grocery bag in the house without having 2 trips. Who likes to do that?
Except
Oh,
they,
yeah.
Anyone?
they have the paper
I take it as a
bags now, and I
challenge.
have
One
to.
Come
trip,
on,
no
one
matter
trip.
what it looks like.
And your
Right?
fingers are just
Yeah.
numb by the time you get inside, but you're
Yeah,
not
the
going to
end
set
of
those
your
bags
finger is
down.
white, and you're like, all right,
Yeah.
I got this.
I'd rather lose one than make a second trip.
Well,
It's-
they give us the paper bags now when we do the pickup, and so I
Oh,
can't. I'm
yeah.
gonna rip a handle if I
That's
try to
true.
carry too many.
That's
so.
very frustrating.
Yeah.
Whole Foods did that to me the other week, and I was like, this is not efficient.
Yeah, that's
I've
why we
made-
make you put a med ball in your lap and walk it across the
That's
floor.
right. So, anyways, I just wanted to kind of bring it back to the non-athletes out there, like me.
You're an athlete.
All right, well.
Lower half though. All right, so we're gonna move on to another member question. And so I think this is a really important one for all of us. There's a lot of talk, a lot of opinion on sleep and on recovery. So how important is sleep and recovery and overall health? How important is sleep for recovery and overall health? And what tips do you have on improving sleep quality? Morgan Kline,
Yes.
you are religious about your sleep. Why?
Oh, you think on that? You think so, huh? Well,
Well, but judging by 9:42 every night, you are out like a light. So
yes, I think that sleep is incredibly important. For me personally, I've gone many, many years of not getting quality sleep because of just raising young kids and my sleep being interrupted every couple hours. And so I'm finally at a point, for the most part, where I can prioritize my sleep and get a full good night's rest. And I've seen so many more benefits throughout my day or just how I'm feeling based on how my sleep quality was. I actually started wearing my Aura ring again. Remember we talked about this in a couple episodes
we did
back,
a trackable.
Devin.
Yeah, we did a
And
device one.
I just wanted to share. So we had Kline Bash like not too long ago, and
Which
I
is?
drank.
Which is?
We invite all of our HQ crew over, our Lake Norman crew, the studio crew, and their families, and we do a pool day, we do a lake day, we order food, we've got a drink truck, we got Kona ice. It's an awesome day.
a lot of attractions.
Lots of fun. But I haven't been drinking a ton. I've just been kind of picking and choosing when I want to drink alcohol and really associating my sleep to it. And so on the Aura ring, it gives you a sleep score or a recovery score. And I'm just going to go back to, what day was it?
The 20, June 22nd.
So,
22nd, the 22nd of June.
yep.
Good job,
Okay.
you love.
No. Yes. Hang on. Well, no, that's not right, guys. Was it the 22nd? 22nd. Yes. Okay. Anyways, long story short, you can see the dip in my sleep when I drank alcohol. And so for me, like it kind of messed up my whole day. It wasn't that I was hungover. It was just that I didn't get quality sleep. And so that for me impacted my motivation the next day, my activity level. I wanted to go to bed earlier than even later that night. And so sleep for me is that time for my brain to rest. And if I don't get that, I'm completely overloaded.
And when
So,
you drink alcohol, your brain isn't resting.
no, and I'm not getting that sleep that I need because it's yes. So I believe there's a huge correlation with good sleep, and it's not just alcohol that can impact it. It's also your routine. It's, the lights that you have, the stimulation that you have before bedtime, the temperature you even have in your room. Like, you got to get it right. So.
From my understanding, and this, I'm sure Bill Nye, the science guy of fitness, will jump in here with the actual science behind
With
it.
my partner in crime, Chat GPT, over here.
But really, sleep is the time where your body's recovering, right? Not just your brain, but when you broke your muscles down, that's the time where I picture like the cells kind of like wake up, their alarm goes off, and like, all right, time to go to work, time to repair the body. And so I remember a clip from Hard Knocks, the HBO show that follows a team through training camp. And when they were following the Texans many years ago, JJ Watt got a lot of attention for saying that he sleeps 10 hours a night. And so he also said basically that's the equivalent of taking steroids, because he said, hey, that's the whole job of steroids, is to help you recover. So then you can take on more activity. And if you can sleep and you can recover better, then it can actually create more capacity for me to do more work, right? In a way that's productive. And so that was pretty is just a good perspective from him. And then I think sleep science has come a long way. You really start to see, NBA teams, it's at, what is it, 82 game season, I think, and they're traveling. So they bring on people that help the team be able to sleep because they know, hey,
they're in different time zones too.
And they have to play so often. I think MLB is 162 games, but I haven't heard as much about sleep, specialists on those teams. Maybe
It's
they
also
have
not as physically demanding as a basketball game.
On your joints, on the hardwood, it's just.
There's been dudes that like crush 12 packs of beer and go out and throw no hitters.
Yeah, there's still a little bit of the Babe Ruth days and
old Curly, lefty Curly. Out here.
But I think the more that we're learning about sleep, it's becoming more of, hey, this is something that you need to be effective. Back in the day, it might, I sleep 4 hours and then I get up and crush my day. It's like, well, maybe if you sleep 7 or 8, you're going to be able to crush your day even better and more consistently.
Yeah, I would agree with Morgan. I think for me at least, it comes down to a routine.
Yeah.
Right. I eat dinner at the same time. I brush my teeth at the same time. We wind down. I cut off water so that way I'm not waking up in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
I know. Okay. Yeah. You gotta have your cutoffs, right? So,
so does my son.
Yeah.
He's gonna look back on this one and be like, "Dang it, Mom."
I won't say anything more.
You're Aaron Maxey out right now.
Could be a right guy. We never know. But no, it changes your life when you find that routine and what works for you and what's sustainable, right? Don't do something that's not sustainable for you long term. If you can't do it every single day, why waste your time trying for a quick fix? I take the same supplements at night, right? I take my melatonin and my ZMA and all of those right before bed. And it's again, that's my routine. That's what works for me. It's sustainable. I've got the auto ship on Amazon. I got everything, right?
Nice.
And
Right
so
before bed at 7:15 p.m.
Yep, 7:15. Yeah, when you have a 1-year-old, life comes at you quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, that also helps, right? He goes down at 7, we go down at 8. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I have to admit something because I was in that whole hustle and grind and don't sleep when you're dead culture and mindset for a long time. And I wouldn't say that I could have bypassed that, but I will say that I leaned into it because I wanted to feel like it was normalized. And I mean, how many years did we go more sleeping like 5 or 6 hours, like 4 or 5 hours a night sometimes? I'd wake up the next day and be like, I'm good. And like, meanwhile, like I have like bloodshot eyes and bags under my eyes and I'm going on like hour 100 of work. And it's just like, okay, there's a certain level of urgency, effort, hustle that it takes to build a business. Like that's just a fact. Hard work works. If you're not willing to work hard, long, like then you're just leaving an advantage on the table. But I always thought that was just how I was. Like I could just do this forever. And I never languaged it that this was just a period of time in my life that I'm aware that this isn't good for my body. But I'm going to do it anyway because I need to during this time of my life and I'll get back to sleeping well. And I wanted to apologize for anybody that ever followed my advice. And, I said, I'm great in 4 hours. Everybody has their own, need for sleep and their own, that's BS. Like the humans are so similar. Like we all need 6, 7, 8 hours. It varies a little bit, but 4, give me a productive human being on 4 or 5 hours of sleep over a sustained period of time. And I'll show you a robot or an alien, not a human being. And I just started sleeping more once things got a little bit less busy.
Well, you could relax a little too.
Relax a little bit more. And I started sleeping 7, sometimes 8, sometimes on Sundays 9 or 10. And when
Thank you for admitting that.
When Morgan would let me sleep in. And I'll tell you what, it's been the one thing that has helped and this is more recent. Like this isn't like 5 years ago. This is more recent. This has been the one thing that has helped my body start to look and feel better the fastest. It's just getting enough sleep. I've never felt better on leg days personally. Oh my gosh, guys, for so long, leg days, just like, I love it, but my body hurts so bad. My joints hurt, my hips are clicking, my ankles are sore. Between sleeping more and cold plunging, I am maximizing my workouts. My legs are the strongest they've ever been. People have noticed Devin, your legs, I've had chicken legs for my entire life. And people are finally starting to say, hey, look, your legs are looking good. I'm like,
Does that feel good?
What? I've never heard
real
that
good.
before.
I'm in the same boat.
So I just wanted to say that. I wanted to tell everybody, if you ever listen to me, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that to you. And you should be sleeping an adequate amount so that your body can recover. Because it does three things from my perspective. It's mind, right? It's muscle, and it's body fat. So when we sleep, muscle recovery happens because GH is released during our deep sleep. Okay, growth hormone is released. That's its peak. Its peak release is during our REM sleep. Okay, number two, improved performance. Cognitive function just means thinking, right? Like I'm able to think more clear. My reaction times are proven to be better. So my mind is sharper. I'm improving my mental performance. And mind's all we got, right? So we've got to stay as sharp as we can there. Especially me, because some of us are born with a little bit more intelligence than others. So I got to wake up and be real sharp and on my game to keep up with some of these crazies up here. Well, weight management is the last one. You have some hormones that deal with weight management. Leptin is one that we all have probably heard of. These are controlling hunger impulses and ultimately body fat and our ability to store body fat and control our appetite or our hunger. So by just sleeping, you're going to maximize, like JJ Watt said, your muscle recovery. You're going to increase the ability to recover your cognitive function, and your ability to burn body fat when you are awake is increased as well. So, muscle, mind, and body fat. Those are the reasons for sleep and recovery.
Get your sleep.
Get your sleep, people. Don't listen to Devin circa 2016
Hey,
or 17.
somebody did listen to that and went and built a great business, and they'd probably tell you thank you because they were in the same part of their life. So don't beat yourself up too much.
I would tell them now that you, as a business builder, you are climbing up the mountain. Once you get to the top of the mountain, then the other side is easier and it's downhill, and you do not have to do the same things that you did when you were climbing up the mountain. You just don't. It's because I have Dylan and you and Morgan and Amber and our Trish, who's on the podcast a lot, and Day, who was just here. Our entire team that's around us now. We don't have to hold the weight on our shoulders anymore, and that is definitely a good feeling. When you're climbing up the hill, it's like, and you're just you and Morgan, in our kitchen or something before anybody else comes on, and we are trainers and janitors, and we're literally holding all the roles. You have to go through those periods. I just wish I would have said, don't sleep now, because if you do it the right way, you're gonna get to here in a couple years.
All right.
All
Get
right.
your sleep.
Get your sleep. All right, here, guys, we are gonna go into myth or fact. We love this little segment on here. All right. Let's go. Here it is right now. Are we ready?
Yep.
Does lifting weights stunt growth in kids and teens? Dylan, myth or fact?
I mean, growing up, I would say that it was a fact.
Okay, stop there. We'll get your take on it in a minute. Bryce, myth or fact?
That's where I was leaning. I'm being honest because now I know. But I thought it. I can't say that in good conscience because now I know. But I did think it was a fact.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did too.
You did?
This is like one of the first times I feel like I've been busted. But
you're busted?
Yeah. So I've got the article up, but I definitely, even just when we were trainers, Devin, when I trained every day, I had a 13-year-old even, I was afraid to put a weight in their hand because I was under the assumption that it can stunt their growth or it messes with their growth plates. And so I'm very surprised to be reading this article and letting you guys know that that is actually a myth. So it says many people, this was a parents.com article. Many people believe that kids and teens should avoid strength training and lifting weights because it could strain or damage bone growth plates, leading to stunted growth at 11, 13, or even 15. However, there is no research or data that shows that this is true. In fact, you'd be surprised to learn that lifting weights, just like many other types of physical activity, can greatly benefit your growing teen's health and body once done correctly and safely. So obviously that is very important to be done correctly and safely. But it's got a lot of different benefits, including both physical and mental for rising teens.
I love this because it is such a misconception that all of us, before and we didn't just listen to the parents.com article. Like, shout out to parents.com, but you guys are not a peer revised third-party medical study.
Well,
shop.
they did source
They
the
did
AAP, which is the American Academy of Pediatrics.
Yeah, and I mean, there are several studies that cite this now, so that it's the misconception is very, 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 very common, and it is not true. It is not true. There is no evidence that we can find that the growth plates are stunted. You said you always believe this, Dylan?
I did, and then kind of through swimming and through my high school career as a swimmer, we always did body weight stuff. So it was always we would run a lot, we would do push-ups, pull-ups, squats, and I can looking back, I mean it gave me a leg up in college because I had that next step. I had that next thing that I could do that would help me improve and help drop my time. So I see where my coaches were going, and obviously, you got to worry about a lot of wear and tear because in high school you're doing laps. You're putting in miles and miles and miles on your body. So I can see that side too, where they didn't want to overload you too much. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a myth or a fact. Strictly based on what my coaches told me. They didn't really allude to, we want this to be in your back pocket for recruiting and for colleges and stuff like that. But, I always thought it was a fact.
Yeah. So a couple other facts, though, that I wanted to make sure I shared about this article was it is saying that as early as 8 years old is safe for them to start weight training. But it does say weight training before puberty may not be beneficial until hormones settle and the child can build muscle to reap the full effects. So tweens between the ages of 9 and 12 will not see much benefit in terms of adding muscle mass because of their hormone makeup. But what it really leans into is the mental benefits on, depression and obesity, which we just talked about in our last podcast, the rise of obesity in kids and adults. And so getting exercise and physical fitness introduced to them at as young of age you can is going to be beneficial.
I'm not gonna lie, for Max and Ryan and Cameron, anytime I'm at home in the lab doing a workout and they're in with me, they're doing sets of 10 to 12 pull-ups on that pull-up bar.
Yeah.
Does that count? Since birth, I'm just, we're gonna do pull-ups, get up there. Whee!
Yeah.
Try to create that positive association with them on working hard.
Yeah.
So they see me do it and they're like, Dad, I do. And so I do. So I just
Our
lift them up.
kids are much older. They talk more in complete sentences now. No,
That's when
I
it
think,
started, though.
Yeah, no, I think now that I know 8 is safe, I won't mind if Cameron picks up a 10-pound. Let's go, babe.
I'm gonna hear you
Biceps.
in the lab at 5 a.m. just running a camp with our kids, and they're like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "We're strength training. Leave us alone. My kids need to make college. You got to be D1."
No, I won't do that.
I know you won't.
But monkey see, monkey do. They want to do what we do, so it's great to hear that they can start to push themselves a little bit.
Okay, we're gonna move on to Chelsea's question from Lake Norman on leg day. Woo! All of our favorite on leg day.
Speak for yourself, man.
Yeah, I know. What about you guys out there? Leg day? Any leg day fanatics, aficionados?
I like leg day.
Like push pull.
I like all days.
I have leg day, but I can relate to this question, so let's get to it.
On leg day, yes, ma'am. On leg day, I sometimes struggle with my lower back hurting, and when I try to use heavier weights. What are some tips to help with this? Ooh, okay. On leg day, I sometimes struggle with my lower back hurting. When I try to use heavier weights, what are some tips to help with this? Okay. This is what I want everyone in Burn Nation to hear. We have to strengthen, number one, and a close second is to lengthen. And this is the duality of life, right? You don't just get to breathe in. You also have to breathe out.
Felt like you were like, say
Are
it
we-
with
are
me
we-
without
say it with
saying
me,
it.
children.
2 claps on 2.
Okay, right? It's have an up. There must be a
Down.
Okay, we get it, right? So in order to continue to strengthen, we're going to have to lengthen. And your back hurting this is the answer for 99% of these cases. There could be like a specificity I'm unaware of, and this would be irrelevant. But for most of us, the reason that our lower back is going to start hurting when we're getting stronger isn't because we're injured. It's not because we got like a lower back subluxation. It's not because of genetics. It's because you constantly contract your muscle and you rarely, if ever, lengthen your muscle. So we have a solve for this. Burn on demand, burn yoga. We call it motion. To me, yoga, motion, it is the kryptonite to a lower back soreness. I have never met somebody, and you guys may have met somebody, but I personally have never met somebody who is proficient at length, meaning they can go through all the yoga poses pretty much no problem, and also simultaneously tells me that their lower back hurts. I've never found it. I'm sure there's cases, but there's probably few and far between if they have a normal, healthy musculoskeletal structure.
I'm taking this as a challenge. I don't know why. You're probably right, but when you say I've never met someone, I just want you to put me through all the poses, and I'll see if I can do it, and I could be a case study. I think you'll probably be right, though, because they probably have limitations.
I don't think you can do all the poses.
You don't think so? Okay. I don't know.
We'll bring you on to the next session.
Well, here's what it
Rachel.
does. Yoga, the elongation of the muscle belly, so the Golgi tendon gets a signal from the brain once you put enough stress on it. The Golgi tendon, it's the brain of the muscle, so you're either contracting or lengthening. So if I send a signal to my Golgi tendon to relax, to let me stretch you, okay, I'm gonna have to sit in those poses like a pigeon pose. I'm gonna just sit there for a minute, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. The 3 minutes that we take to stretch or 2 minutes at the end of burn can maintain that, but it's not going to be your fundamental foundational lengthening regimen. So we have yoga, motion in the gym. Some gyms have it, some don't, but we have it on demand. It counts toward your Keep Moving Club. And Chelsea, your answer most likely to your question of how do I get this lower back of mine to stop hurting? It's not to go lower on weight. It's to continue to use heavy weights, but replace 1 day a week for a lengthening session. That is a 45-minute plus deep pose where you are focused on opening up your hips. All stress, not all, but most stress manifests energetically in the hips. And then we'll feel it in the lower back because that's the convergent point of our body where stress comes together. So that's just my take on it. D-Love, Bryce, Morgan, what's your all's take on Chelsea's question? What are some tips to help her with this?
Yeah, I mean, getting a little bit more specific into the lengthening, I find a lot of hip mobility, for me at least. I mean, I can speak for myself, and my wife, has some of the same issues where, the hips get really tight and everything. It's hard for that lower back to relax. So we do every night. Again, you think about routines, and something that's sustainable is, as you're watching TV or, after you put the kids down or something like that, you're taking that, 15, 20, 30 minutes to just lengthen and strengthen. You don't necessarily even need to strengthen, but lengthen, as you're watching TV or, listening to a podcast or going into your nightly routine. That's a huge piece of my routine is at night, and it helps me wind down. It helps me relax, and get ready for the next day. I sleep better at night. I know we're going back to the last segment, but it helps, me, have that routine, and then, find the time in the day to work on that lengthening.
Yeah. I need to work on this for sure. So I'm going to take it a different route because I can't speak to the power of lengthening.
So you're not sitting there in your room in a warrior one, just in a deep warrior one.
I do from time to time, but unfortunately it's when something's feeling pretty bad, which is not the way to live life. Is be like, hey, my back is really bothering me, or it feels like I popped a rib out or something like that, and now I'm going to focus on lengthening. But I will say something else that has helped. I was just going to say focus meetings, because I think I shared this last time I was on the podcast. I had a just impromptu conversation with Ashley Beasley, our lead trainer at the Lake Norman location. And she just helped me understand what my form was on some of these leg day exercises. And when there's a hinge, really I was engaging my back. So when the distribution of what muscles were supposed to be working, instead of really firing my quads and those actually strengthening up, my back was kicking in. So it was just constantly like, I can go heavy, but that was constantly taking some of what the legs were supposed to take. And ever since she said, hey, I need you to keep a neutral core, right? And she showed me what squats were supposed to look like. And this was a minor tweak, but I started feeling it in the correct place and started working the right muscles. And this is a person, I've grown up in the weight room since I was 14 with people, teaching me squats and professional strength coaches, college strength coaches. And this was something that she helped me with just say, hey, try this. And that's what focus meetings can be for too, is just, it's not just goals and nutrition. You could say, hey, I've been feeling this. I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah. I'll just wrap it up and say ditto to everything, but also form is super important. So if you are doing like a leg day exercise or you're doing it wrong, then that can have a big impact on that lower back pain and also your core. So that's another thing to not overlook, is just continuing to strengthen your core. Don't skip the core days because you don't love it, because that core is really the nucleus to everything that's connected. So those would be my 2 things.
I love your suggestion, D-Love, that you said about nightly posts, because that's just so practical. And my suggestion for everybody, if you can just follow along with my words, is the first thing you should do, in my opinion, because this has helped me the most if you're having lower back issues, is you can get down in what's called a catcher's stretch. You ever seen a baseball player? Catchers, great. Put your feet flat on the ground. Get them as wide as you can. Try to drop your ass and down, touch your heels with your butt. Okay, ass to grass if you can. And then the first thing that you're going to do is take your elbows on the inside of your knees, and then you're going to put your hands together like a prayer, and you're going to drop down, and you're going to push out your knees with your elbows. Once you can sit there for 3 minutes and you're pretty comfortable and you can move side to side, if you do this 3 minutes a night, you're going to start to feel how you're creating space in your body to move in different ways. You'll start to be able to shift laterally side to side in that position. You'll be able to start to pull one knee in and fold one knee over and put it on the ground. You're going to start noticing that you're creating space. The next thing I want you to do to go to the next level is find like an apparatus, something you can hold on to that doesn't move, like a countertop, I don't know, something like that, staircase or stair rail. Find something, and now instead of putting your elbows on the inside of your knees and sitting down in that catcher stretch, now you're going to reach out. Okay, you're going to reach out. So you're going from frontal to sagittal plane. You're going to reach out now, and you're going to grab that apparatus, and now you're going to focus on flattening your back out while you're still in that catcher stretch with your butt all the way down to the ground. And though between those two movements in the frontal and sagittal plane, in that pose, in that posture, that's when the one thing that has helped me the very most, and I have actually a slight, it's not quite scoliosis, but from repeated asymmetrical movements pitching, I've got a slight curvature in my lower back. So I have a tendency to concave on my right side, meaning that the muscle is underused, and convexed on the opposite side, which means I think that the muscle is overused. I think I'm using the right terminology there. But yeah, so my bulge on my left side pulls the spine over in the right side, and I'm working on it. It's just going to take 10 years to reverse because it took 10 years to get there. So I'm right with you, people, and the journey doesn't stop. Thank you, Chelsea, for your question. That was an amazing one, and we hoped that this helped. We have one more article, one more member question, and then MK is going to do it like we always do and take us out. Let's use this to just stop and pause and say, please review the Burn Bootcamp podcast on Apple. If you love this episode, let us know what you love about it, or send us a message individually on Instagram. Okay. We are going to talk about this article, staying on the kind of the whole Olympic notion here, the science behind sports nutrition for athletes. This comes from Olympics.com. Bryce, you want to take us through this article?
Yeah. So the article from Olympics.com is called "The Daily Diet of Champions: What Some of the World's Best Athletes Eat to Perform at Their Best." And what do you guys think? You think we're looking at, kind of specialized by sport or person, or do you think we're going to get into some content here that's just only chicken breast, right? And 6,000 calories of chicken breast. What do you think? Is it going to be strict, or do you think we're going to have some differences from athlete to athlete?
I think we're going to have some differences from athlete to athlete.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Hard Knocks earlier, and I remember watching the Cincinnati Bengals when Ocho Cinco was on the Hard Knocks, and he said that he ate McDonald's every single day and he was like one of the best athletes of all time in the NFL. So I'm pretty sure there's a very large range here.
Yeah, so that's the encouraging thing for all of us out here, looking at all the best athletes in the world. I mean, they talk about actual specific athletes across different sports. We have fencing, swimming, boxing, climbing, and really they just say, hey, what's your diet look like? And they all talk about how they have resources to help them find a diet that works for them through trial and error. Things like, hey, here's what I found I perform best when I eat this before a game or, things like that. But you also see a lot, like here's a quote here, her current favorite sweet treat, crumble cookies, right? You have another swimming. Here's the quote, the good news for us, even the world's best athletes eat ice cream, but they're talking a lot about moderation. They're talking about timing. They understand here's what I need to do to perform. And here's how my diet and when I eat these things affects me. And then there's also a difference in the sports themselves, right? So getting away from the article a little bit, I know when I was playing baseball, I worked out in a facility where one of the trainers would look at me and be like, hey, you're not lean enough, man. And my trainer would be like, dude, you're standing on the top of a hill trying to throw a baseball hard. Like gravity's in your favor. Like, yes, you have to be able to move, but a little bit of mass, it's different if you're a pitcher, right? Whereas if you are a rock climber that they're talking about down here, well, you're holding yourself up. Any unproductive mass may be a little bit more counterintuitive to what you're trying to do in your sport than a pitcher or a linebacker or an offensive lineman. There's trade-offs, right? Sometimes a little mass may be something good, even if it's not pure lean muscle. And that's what I saw kind of through all of these different sports and all these different people, is just some variety, but a strong understanding of what's going to make me successful.
Yeah. And I would, to your point, when I was swimming, I would train a little heavier than I would for a meet. One, my dietary needs were a little bit different during meet time. But if you're moving 200 pounds during the season and then you go to moving 195 or 190 pounds, right, you're pulling more weight or pulling less weight through the water, right? So for me, it was a speed thing where I can drop a couple pounds here and there and, you're tapering at that point, right? Which means you're basically resting your body to be able to perform for those, 30 to, 15 minutes for some of those, the mile and events like that. But that's your time, right? You're resting, you're recovering, your body's, coming back to its like normal form and you're the lactates, leaving your muscles and stuff like that. So, for me, it was, let me swim a little bit lighter so that way I can pull less mass through the water and be more efficient. Right. It even got as serious as, shaving legs, right? It's the big thing.
I remember that in
right?
high
You got
school.
swimming always comes up once every 4 years during the Olympics. And, the big news is like the guys shave their legs and their armpits and, so it's, anything to any little thing that's going to help you perform a little bit better. And there was, on the flip side of that, you have the stories in 2016 with Ryan Lochte, when the Olympics were in Beijing, he ate McDonald's every single day, basically every meal, because that's what he was comfortable eating, right? It was what he knew, because McDonald's is the same in the U.S. as it is in in Beijing, and so it's cool to hear those kind of stories too. They're big trainings. You hear Michael Phelps is eating 10,000 calories a day to keep up with the demand, because he's working out 5 or 6 hours a day. And again, it's just it's what fits your needs, right?
Yeah, I would guess the science probably would say, hey, McDonald's is not the right choice. But
Probably.
to your point, to your point though, is that there's all different situations, right? So, and one of them being just how talented are some of these people? I mean, I know like Devan said, he's got to wake up and, do his best to keep up with some other people. I know for me, that was in baseball, I was behind, right? I wasn't a draft pick. I was an undrafted free agent. I had to work, but then I would also watch some just extremely talented guys that if they didn't eat healthy, they didn't do anything, they would step onto the field and they would be one of the best players, right? And that exists everywhere. That's one of the variables. But then there's also variables like, can that person get away with eating McDonald's? There's things like, well, if the optimal thing was to eat only lean chicken, chicken breasts and broccoli, can they actually do that and get enough calories in them? So there, there's just a wide range of solutions of what do people actually need, and then what's their ability to actually do that in a sustainable way. And it's just interesting when you get into athletics, because talent also comes into play too. It's just a matter of, well, what if you actually didn't eat McDonald's? Could you have swam a little bit faster?
I mean, he won 4 gold medals.
Yeah,
at
but I'm
Olympics.
just saying that's the thing. So if you look at people who are all-stars in any, and they're not doing anything, it's like, well, what if you did lift weights? Or what if you did do some sprints? You don't know. You don't know.
I think that lifestyle athletes are far better at their nutrition than professional elite athletes. That's my experience. All the people that I was around in professional athletics, professional sports, ate like crap.
You mentioned the beer on the bus in the back of the bus.
I mean, it could be different for swimming. I'm sure it's likely different for per sport and like what level that you do get to. But I know a lot of basketball players too, and these guys eat terrible. And so I think more often than not, this might be an overgeneralization a little bit, but I think more often than not, people that are after this lifestyle goal tend to dial in that variable better because there's talent isn't a consideration, right? And
Everybody's talented.
Generally speaking, unless you're going to do like athlete games or level up games or something like that, then nutrition might be more important. To Dylan's point of like, you know, if you have 10 extra pounds on you, well, that's 10 extra pounds you got to lug around when you're running, right? Versus having 10 extra pounds off, you might want to eat in order to get your body fat down in order to compete at a higher level. But from my experience, professional athletes eat not very good unless they're hand fed, like by their coaches and by their trainers. Let me just make this simple, and then I'll pass it to Morg. To me, it's very simple. There's two things that you need to focus on. This is in order. Two things that we need to focus on in order to just feel good from like this lifestyle perspective. So calories in, calories out. Everybody's going to say that's not the entire case. I know that. Okay. But that's more important. Okay. Than quality of calories, which is a close second. So calories in, calories out, or energy in, energy out. And then the composition of that energy is really important because then that is a prerequisite to the composition of your body. So let's try to play it inverse. If people want to argue quality of calorie, you can argue quality of calorie, give you 20,000 calories of chicken breast and see if you don't gain body fat in a single day. I would welcome that experiment. So it's calories first, quality of calories. Then you have a slight deficit if you know your total daily energy expenditure. Okay, so if I have a set amount of calories I need to know how much energy I'm expending, TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, based on my lifestyle. And then my job, if I'm going to get healthier, if healthier means to get in a normal BMI, get a normal body fat, normal weight range for your age, gender, and height, then I'm going to have a slight deficit, 100, 200 maybe calories per week, so that we lose body fat. So you don't want to go to 500. That's a half a pound a week. You don't need to lose a half a pound a week. Okay, that's too fast. You're going to lose muscle mass. You're going to have to lower your calories too low to where you can't maintain muscle mass. So calories in, calories out. Nail your energy. Make your energy just slightly lower than your expenditure. And now we're talking about, can I get 100 grams or more of protein within my quality of calories? Can I get 100? And if I can get 100 and I can be in a deficit, that's it, people. I mean, let's not make it any more complicated than it has to be, because everything else after that is similar to when Dylan talks about swimmers shaving their legs. Helpful, incrementally. Like, does it really matter if
tenths, hundredths of a second?
Hundredths of a second.
Yeah.
It only matters. Timing in nutrition only matters if you're a professional bodybuilder, where that timing actually is the difference between you.
Bodybuilder or
No,
athlete?
bodybuilder. Is the difference between you standing next to somebody else on that stage and being better than that person is those 0.000% needle movers, the 0.0 like 10 hundredths of a second or whatever you just said. Like, yeah, not relevant to like almost everyone outside of the 14 swimmers that are at the Olympics. That's my take.
Should we have shaved our arms? How many miles per hour do you think we could have got with a little less friction?
Well, Morgan remembers me from the year that I was an undrafted free agent too. The year that I got drafted or picked up, signed, I was like 235, and I was chubby.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I was unintentionally. I came back from a break and I saw Bryce for the first time, and he had
big boy.
5 gallons of milk in his fridge and like protein powder and pasta. And I was like, "What are you doing, dude? You've gained like 40 pounds."
Yeah, squatting 475 at
You were
that point.
throwing 97 miles an hour, and I was jealous. 'Cause that's when you got better than me.
That's when you were sleeping 4 hours and waking up at passing people coming home from the gym, like they're coming home from going out and you're going to the gym.
Going to the gym. We got stories for days on that one, but we're going to end on a member Q&A. So let's start with you, Dylan. We'll pass it around. We'll end on Morgan. Morgan, then you can take us out. How's that sound?
Sure.
All right. So member Q&A, last one. This one comes from Concord, North Carolina. Shout out to my man David. He says, how to avoid burnout and overtraining, and what are the signs to watch for? Dylan.
Let's go. So for me personally, this is something that I struggle with a lot is, having that routine, sticking to that routine. I want to be, disciplined in my training and working out, and because it's not just physical, it's the mental side, the emotional side, where it really helps me. So for me, at least, I like to take deload weeks. So what that means for me is instead of working out 5 days a week, I might work out 3 or 4. And on the days that I'm not in the gym working out, I'm going for walks, and I'm having some clarity breaks for myself to be able to re-energize and become reinvigorated going into the following week. So I'll go to burn 2 or 3 times that week. I'll pick and choose something. Maybe I'll prioritize strength days instead of some cardio days, just for me personally, because that's where I feel like I don't have to. I go to a cardio day or a Metcon day and I want to go 100%, right? And in a strength day or something like that, I'm able to, kind of maybe drop 5 pounds and really focus on form. And, again, with the purpose of getting my muscles back to where they need to be, because it is a grind and you do get caught up in it. And, it's hard sometimes to take that week, or a couple days off. But for me, that really helps. So that's what I would say. Deload weeks for me are incredible. Again, I prioritize my sleep and my recovery. I still eat the same amount of calories per day. I meal prep every week, so I'm eating the same stuff every single week. So I'm not decreasing my calories. I'm still getting the nourishment in my body from the food, as well as, again, just going a little bit lighter in the gym and taking, an extra day or two to just, again, mentally and physically, get boosted up again.
Yeah. I'd love to answer this question with a quick story. And I could relate to this. At one point in my life, I used to come home for the off season and train 6-7 days a week. And I actually switched my strength coach, and he wrote me a program that was 5 days a week. And so I remember going to him and saying, hey, I'll come in on the weekends, or give me something to do at home, or I can find a different gym if you guys aren't open. And he said, what you're doing on the weekend is resting. I didn't not write this program for you to work out on the weekends because I didn't think you would do it. I did it because you need to recover. And so for me, that really shifted my mindset, where I just thought more is more, right? Like I'm willing to do it. If I do more, I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get closer to my goals. And when I realized, hey, sometimes what I need is to do nothing on a Sunday. And that's where I just was in this mindset of just go, 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 go. And activity felt like I was being productive, when in fact, sometimes a lack of activity is actually what I needed. So just taking a step back and saying, what are my goals and what does that look like? And not feeling the need to go put some sort of activity that doesn't make sense towards getting closer to your goals.
Yeah. I think mine's a very similar answer. I've been doing burn for 12 years. And so one would think that you'd get burnt out from doing like the same thing, but we always switch it up. I think for me though, over time, I've just learned to be sustainable, you have to listen to your body. You have to take the rest days. So very similar to what both Dylan and Bryce have said, is not feeling guilty when you do need to take the rest day, or you need to deload, or you need to maybe go for a run instead of going to camp and lifting heavy weights. And I've incorporated yoga now into my routine, I guess you could say. So that's kind of, for me, it's listening to your body and making sure that burnout, because burnout, I think, can be mentally and it also can be physically. So from a physical perspective, if you just are constantly listening to your body and giving yourself that permission, but then mentally feeling burnt out, maybe you're just not excited about the workout anymore, and you need to reinvigorate yourself with something new, or a different perspective on exercise.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I do a deload week about every 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
For me, that feels good, and I do it as a non-negotiable. Even if I feel great,
Yeah.
I know my body still needs that time to rest and recover. So, it could be week 5, week 6, and I feel like I can go another 5 or 6 weeks, but I know mentally I need to take that time. Regardless of how I feel, I need to make sure my body's recovering.
All right, Devin, you got anything? You want me to close us out?
Close us out. I've
right.
said a lot today.
Okay.
David,
Good question.
that was a great question.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to get in at the cellular level. Overtraining happens because of.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Make sure that you are subscribing, whether that's on Apple or on YouTube, wherever you are listening to this podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. And like Devan said, we would love a review. That is our oxygen. That is our feedback loop. That's what keeps us getting on and press and play. But thank you guys for being here. Thanks, D-Love. Thanks, Bryce. Thanks, Devan. We're going to end like we always do. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.
Have a great day, everybody.